Hi, I'm Deryck Mitchelson. I'm the Chief Information Security Officer and the Director of National Digital for the NHS in Scotland. And I'm going to speak to you today about our hybrid cloud environments that we've got running, which is powered by Microsoft and Checkpoint solutions. Quite a small summary for us to go through. It's going to be mainly about what we've done around our cloud adoption, the main challenges we've got within the NHS in Scotland, and how in particular Checkpoint have helped to solve these big problems that we've got. I'll be sharing a bit of architecture with you as well, so you can understand what it is we've built, what it is that we're doing, and talking about how we're managing this through a SecOps approach so that our large data is getting managed in an efficient way. Like most organisations in the NHS in Scotland, we've seen the pandemic very much driving our need to get into not just the cloud, but a hybrid cloud environment. The work we do with Gartner, we've seen an 18% rise within cloud adoption within the start of 2021, and we think that will continue to increase. There's a few reasons for that. One is around business resilience. Definitely a need for more flexible compute power, flexible storage that you get within this hybrid cloud environment. And again, things like high availability and disaster recovery, which you can't just get from sitting on private data centers. Innovation, maturing marketplace is another big driver. It's things like moving into AI, business intelligence, chatbots, etc. And very much the commercial piece driving that, digital payments, robotics as well. Like most organisations, the NHS in Scotland has seen a lot of people working in a remote way. That means we've relied much more on the public cloud to provide these services through collaboration, Office 365, etc. And we're very much looking at environmental and sustainability as well, keeping our costs down, but making sure that we're doing things in an efficient way. And that's how we'd like to work within the NHS. As I talked about the rise of this hybrid cloud, we've got a public data center which we use, which is Microsoft Azure, and a private data center which is managed for us on the back of Atos, an Atos managed contract. We've got a sort of phased adoption where we see ourselves pushing more services towards the public cloud into Azure, but at the moment we're still keen to keep a lot of that data sitting close to us, in particular things like the crown jewels that I talk about and intellectual property that we don't necessarily want to just be sitting within the public cloud. So it allows us to align our workloads and avoid things like lock-in as we move forward and actually are doing things. And it's certainly a bit less disruptive than it would be if we just had everything sitting within the public cloud. In particular, we do a lot with big data sets and a lot with imaging, and the public cloud allows us to do a lot more what I call cloud bursting, whereby some of our services are starting within the private data center and ending up running within Azure. And we get this fast time to marketplace, etc. around that as well. The particular challenges we've got within the NHS in Scotland is that we're a complex organisation. We're 14 individual territorial health boards. They're the boards that provide that frontline healthcare. They're separate legal entities and they've all got their own teams. They've got the medical teams. They've also got their own HR, finance, and they've got their own IT and digital and security teams. And the challenge I've got working for what's called a national board, National Services of Scotland, is being able to provide services across to all these individual legal entities and all the different systems. We've got an interconnect that runs between all the boards in Scotland called the Scottish Wide Area Network, or we call it SWAN for short. And a big challenge is that runs on legacy MPLS technology, very slow and obviously managed and quite expensive to make changes to. We've built a One for Scotland public cloud on Microsoft Azure, but we do still run the national private data center in conjunction with Atos. We've got lots of additional infrastructure that sits there, including we've got a 25-year-old mainframe that we do our payroll systems on. And we do have a move towards more of the internet-facing services like Office 365, software as a service, and platform as a service, or serverless apps, very much where we want to be. But we're also cognizant of the fact that we have still got some teams that are skilled in the sort of legacy or hardware-based appliances, so that makes things quite difficult. Heavily dependent on systems that run across all the health boards, and we've got huge and large data sets, just under a petabyte of data that we tend to manage and shift about. And what's challenging for us as well, having 14 territorial health boards, is actually having an authentication and identity model that sits across all of this, so we know the right people are getting access to the right information. The work we've done with Checkpoint and Microsoft has been around architecting this secure hybrid public cloud that I've talked about, and this is for both future and for current workloads. We've put in place an authentication model, which is Azure Active Directory, and that connects back using AAD Cloud Sync onto on-prem Active Directories across the territorial health boards. And we've deployed dual express route interconnects into our Scottish wide area network between Azure and between our data centre, and that's terminated by the Checkpoint technologies. We've got CloudGuard running within, CloudGuard IaaS running within Azure, and we've actually deployed Checkpoint Quantum Maestro and a cluster of gateway devices that are sitting on-prem. We've also deployed Dome 9 for compliance reasons around GDPR and NIS regulations, and we push all this back into our SOC, basically our SIEM technology, to make sure that we're doing threat hunting and we're able to actually see what the actionable intelligence is that's coming from both the public cloud and the private cloud. And of course, backing that up with advanced analytics and forensics, both in real time and looking at the past as well, which we get from the Checkpoint solutions. Critical to us has been able to hyperscale. We move lots of data and workloads back and forward, and the Checkpoint solutions, in particular, what we get through Micro allows us, what we get from Maestro allows us to actually move these workloads around in a seamless way and seamlessly provisioning this network security that sits on top of that. We need the next generation security we get. We need to have that though on any cloud basis, not just sitting within Azure. We need that both on-prem as well as in Azure. And we've deployed the gateways in particular in a clustered way because we need to be able to actually hyperscale these up as we're actually starting to deploy more workloads and more work sets into the cloud. And we use the orchestration to try and bring this all together into one single pane of glass. So we've got that agility and elasticity across both clouds, which is what we're looking to do. This is a high-level architecture as to what we've actually implemented. We have got the NHS Scotland cloud that sits on the left-hand side. That's our private data centre. We use Terraform to manage all our policies, all our security, and also all our DevOps stack. And we, in particular, we use Terraform to actually deploy configuration changes to both our on-prem and to our cloud-based appliances that we've got sitting there as well. Everything's clustered, so we're using Maestro and gateways to actually cluster that. And we've got 10 gig express routes that are sitting between the on-prem and the two public cloud data centres. We've got one of which is south in London and the other one is in the west in Cardiff. And both of these are set up so that the CloudGuard IaaS are going to auto-scale as we throw more resources at them. Critical to us is to make sure we've got the same level of security and compliance across both on-prem and also the public cloud as well. We're doing all this through a DevSecOps approach, in particular continuous integration, continuous deployment. We take full advantage of the RESTful API, which is integrated into our workflows, and that allows us to automate the deployment of new gateways and configurations, deploy our policies once, and make sure we're using this API in order to do our security group auditing. We take security seriously, and we want to deploy our security configurations at the same time as we deploy our applications or making changes to applications. And we use Dome 9 to ensure that we've got that compliance, not just once we've deployed, but we use Dome 9 to make sure that we're compliant before we're actually deploying, so we don't have to start to back out. And that's essential for things like the NIS regulations that is a critical national infrastructure we need to deploy. We ship all intelligent logs into our SIEM, which at the moment is Microsoft's Sentinel, and we've got SOAR capabilities to make sure that we streamline and take advantage of the orchestration and the workflows that we'll need to do for an organisation such as the NHS. And everything's very much around streamlining that security management and that operations process, or that full end-to-end deployment pipeline that we manage through our CI/CD stack, which has got Terraform and Git sitting at the heart of it. This is a use case I'm going to talk about, which is our large data analytics and cloud bursting. At the heart of the NHS is a huge data science platform. That data science platform is hosted within our private data centre, but some of the data sits within the public cloud as well as sitting in the private data centre. It's hugely confidential data sets, large data sets. Some will be workforce, some will be workflow, but we've got PII sitting in there, and we've got medical records sitting in there as well. And we do complex analysis and AI across these. A lot of these will have been done recently across the COVID pandemic, and we provide all the figures to the government in Scotland for using when they're actually doing their policy and response to COVID around hotspots, around the number of deaths, the number of people that actually have COVID, the number of vaccinations that have been given and types of vaccinations, etc. So there's a lot of moving data around, lots of real-time data. And to do the analysis that we're doing, we regularly find ourselves bursting from private cloud into the public cloud in Azure. with lots of large data movements of this just less than a petabyte of data that we're actually playing about with. The great thing with the technology that we've put in place from Checkpoint is that we're able to manage this in a seamless manner. We've got single policies that we apply, and we're able to really safeguard the NHS data and provide confidence to our citizens in Scotland that this data is only getting accessed by the right people at the right time, with the next generation security sitting at either side. And that's actually what's essential to us. And in particular, we get full visibility of all the on-prem and the cloud assets that are made up in this. And again, that's essential. So in summary, in Scotland, we've got a complex hybrid cloud environment in the NHS. And because we're now starting to do so much more within the public cloud, we've got an enlarged threat attack surface that we're trying to manage. Hyperscalability is critical to us. We're managing huge workflows, huge amount of systems, moving lots of data around. And we need to make sure we're doing this in a way that's fully secure and compliant, which is what we get from the Checkpoint appliances. We want to make sure we've got full visibility and alerting. We need to know if we've got any threats or we've got any accesses to any of our information or denial of service attacks. But it's critical to us that we do this in an orchestrated and automated fashion. We don't have huge teams. We need to be very efficient in how we do this. And that means that we've got Sec DevOps right up the middle of the entire process. So thank you very much. Hope you've enjoyed this presentation from the NHS Scotland.